Why is imperialism collapsing? To understand this, we first need to understand the theory of imperialism. Lenin'e göre Imperialism, 1936. Imperialism, according to Lenin, 1936. Lenin defined imperialism as the highest stage of capitalism. Its main characteristics are concentration of capital and the rise of monopolies. Small businesses are replaced by giant monopolies. The merger of industrial and banking capital, finance capital. The export of capital becomes more important than the export of goods. The establishment of international cartels, the division of the world market. The territorial division of the world is completed. Conflicts between imperialist powers increase. According to Lenin, this stage is the period when the contradictions of capitalism become most intense, inevitably leading to wars and revolutionary crises. Comparison with the current situation, monopolies and finance capital. The process Lenin described is even more intense today. Giant monopolies like Google, Amazon, and BlackRock determine the global economy. Financial markets are far more dominant than real production. Capital export. In the 20th century, it was centered around the West. Now, peripheral powers like China are also exporting capital. Africa, Asia, and Latin America are now regions not only exploited, but also attracting capital. World-sharing colonies were directly divided in the 20th century. Today, economic dependence, military bases, and financial debt, rather than direct occupation, are at the forefront. Conflicts during Lenin's time, rivalry between imperialist states led to World War I. Today, the US-China rivalry and the Russia-NATO tension create a similar polarization. New differences, the ecological crisis, climate change, energy transition, was not on the agenda during Lenin's time, but today it is one of the most significant factors threatening the sustainability of the imperialist system. Globalization and the digital economy have further complicated relations of dependency. Conclusion: Lenin's analysis of imperialism still carries valid aspects today. Monopolization, the dominance of finance capital, capital exports, and competition between great powers are still decisive. However, the system is now multipolar, beset by ecological crises and experiencing a legitimacy crisis. So why is imperialism collapsing? Here's the answer. 1. Economic contradictions. Imperialism is based on the export of capital and the exploitation of peripheral countries. However, with globalization, capital flows have accelerated and dependency relations have diversified. Excessive financialization and detachment from production have increased the frequency of crises, e.g., the 2008 crisis, global debt bubbles. The rise of peripheral powers such as China, India, and Russia is weakening unipolar economic domination. 2. Geopolitical resistance and new centers of power. The US and Western-centric order cannot sustain global hegemony alone. Formations such as the BRICS are shattering the control of imperialist centers by establishing alternative financial and trade networks. Military interventions, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, have not brought lasting success for the West. On the contrary, they have led to a loss of legitimacy. 3. Social and ecological crises. Environmental disasters, the climate crisis, and the energy transition are rendering the capitalist imperialist production model unsustainable. Rising inequalities, waves of migration, and poverty are also fueling civil unrest in imperialist centers. Technology, internet, social media, blockchain, etc., is breaking information monopolies and weakening ideological hegemony. 4. Legitimacy crisis. Imperialist centers established global hegemony with rhetoric of democracy and freedom. However, in practice, military interventions, economic sanctions, and double standards have eroded these rhetoric. The search for alternatives to the Western model is gaining strength in the global South. Summary: the imperialist system is not a structure that collapses suddenly. It is an order that has historically progressed through constant crises and is currently weakened by multidimensional contradictions: economic, political, social, ecological. Collapse is not experienced as a single revolutionary collapse, but as a loss of hegemony and a transition to a multipolar world order.